Hey guys, Gary Dean, GMFD Audio. Welcome. So, the last video was the first part of a three-part little series that I'm doing in the middle of all the other things that I do. Notice I've got my fancy gloves on. These things are awesome. I'm working with some epoxy today and the foam from that box I'm building for my Can-Am Maverick Trail. I'm building this little speaker enclosure because I didn't want to order one online. I just want all my stuff to be custom these days. So I'm building this thing. I showed you what it looked like in just the structure of the foam yesterday, where I'm using this Lowe's 1/2 inch insulating foam as the structure for the box. It also aids incredibly in the acoustics of the box. So here we go. This morning I got up early. I've already gone and done a couple jobs. As you may or may not know from my first couple videos, I own a detailing product line at detailjuice.com. I also own a detailing services company and a couple other businesses, but audio is one of my incredibly dramatic, if you will, hobbies. I love audio. Car, home, marine, all of that. But this is for the side-by-side. It's called a Foxy box. F for foam, oxy for, well, epoxy. Foam and epoxy. Foxy. All right, so I was able to basically lay out the interior of the box. I then went ahead and put some matting on the inside of the box and a lot of epoxy around the sides to basically glue it together. And then I left and did a couple of jobs, and then I put some wood on top of it so it would sandwich it together. It is not dry by any sense of the words, but I'm going to go ahead and start working on it anyway. What I need to do first is I need to get this excess off the sides, and you'll notice it's not dry. It's still kind of still really tacky, actually. So just a little bit about the structure. Nothing fancy. Well, I guess it is fancy because nobody else is doing it. They should be doing it. You should try it. But this foam is awesome for getting your structure together. I basically, in order to not have any wood in the construction, which is what I care about most, because I am going to be doing several of these on boats of people that I know. So we're going to be putting these on boats. They're going to be completely sealed with the epoxy inside and outside. I even go in and epoxy the inside of the speaker holes so that everything is sealed up. Nothing will leak into the foam, but it'll be, the epoxy is essentially a glue, so it keeps everything together nice. So I did the inside. Now I need to trim it all up. I hold this together with plastic toothpicks. I actually cut them in half. You'll see a couple of them laying around. I cut them in half, and I basically just stick them in, and it holds it together. You can see I've got several here, and it holds it together pretty good, well enough for me to get the epoxy on it and get it all squared away. So I hold it together with those plastic toothpicks. No glue or no wood in the assembly. I used to use wooden toothpicks, and I have some here, but they actually splinter and don't work as well. Those work okay. It's just when you put them in the foam, they want to go their own way sometimes, so you got to be careful. But they work great and allow me to say no wood in the construction, which is awesome for your marine applications. So that's it. That's the interior layup done. I'm going to go ahead and get it trimmed out and then get everything cut for the outside, and then we'll bring you back before I start glassing the outside. So here goes nothing. Back to work. All right, my GMFD audio family. Been working on this thing on and off all day. The problem with epoxy is it takes forever to cure, especially when you're using the one-to-one mixtures. I do use the Total Boat system as well. This stuff, you have the option of having a slow or a fast hardener. So with the Total Boat stuff, no problem. However, I'm not using that right now. Using a different brand I'm just trying out. This is not a specific to Boatworks epoxy. Just giving a different epoxy a go. I typically like to use epoxies that are designed for boat repairs because well, they may or may not have any UV inhibitors in them to protect from yellowing in the sun, but they do, they are supposed to be just slightly stronger in just how they work. But so this is the underside of my little contraption, all glassed. I still got to do a little bit of work on the corners and that kind of thing. I went ahead and put a little brace in here because this is going to sit back there in the back, and then with all the jerking around, it could possibly move. So I reinforced this entire section here. You can see the line there. So all the way over, down, and under, there's biaxial cloth. So it's strong in every direction. So I reinforced that area with that. The whole corner also got just regular 1.5 ounce chopped strand below it, as far as just straightening out that corner and that seam. And then I stuck that thing in and really worked around it and shoved a lot of epoxy and fiberglass mat in there. So that should be in really good shape right now. But that's where we're at right now. Is I gotta let the bottom side, or actually it is actually in the orientation that it will be used right now. I'm waiting for the epoxy to get a little bit drier, and then I'm gonna tuck in the seams on the edges. It's not buttoned up against it yet, but we will have all of what we need as far as I need epoxy and fiberglass to be right to the edge, and then I'll lay the glass or the cloth on the, I'll flip it over when it's dry and then lay the cloth down all the way across, and then on the sides get her sanded down, finish it with something. I'm not sure yet. I may paint it yellow because that's the accent color of my Can-Am Maverick trail this thing's going in. I don't know yet. It's either going to be black or yellow, but I love that the speakers are all black. So speakers are black. I should have bought a black radio. I didn't. This actually was for another project, and it was just the right size for this one, so I kept it. So the speakers are black. I might as well, and so is most of the trim on the Maverick Trail. So I might as well just paint that yellow with the black speaker accents. All right, guys, it's the next day. I did not get more done on this yesterday like I anticipated. So all this is dry now. So what I've got to do now is basically trim off all this. And because I made a little mistake, not a huge deal, I can cut it out because I'm going to be, so the top is going to get wrapped from basically here all the way around. I'm not worried about it, but I am going to have to cut this off right around there because you can probably see that line. That line is where I mated this top piece of foam to the box on the bottom. I actually used the cloth, which you can see through here on the bottom side of this top. I did that to basically secure the whole interior of the box is solid. And basically glue it together. So what I did was I trimmed it, but I forgot that I couldn't trim it enough. I should not have put this piece on. That's all right. Like I said, I'm gonna trim all of this off, and then I'm gonna basically just grind this down. And then when I wrap this whole top, it'll be totally fine. I still got to get the interior of this top box done. If you'll notice, the bottom side is all done, looking great, with the little brace in there. And then I came up and then all the way up the back. Got a little bit of delam right there, but I'm gonna fill that with epoxy, so I don't care about that either. I'm actually, probably what I'll do is I'll just stuff some of this cloth in there, and then put it on its side and basically pour epoxy in until the cloth is solid and isn't leaking out the other side. So I'll do it on both sides and then fill it up with epoxy so it'll be solid. But that's where we're at right now. And then, so I'm gonna do so I'm gonna do the same all the way around. So basically, with the top, it's gonna be one piece that'll go all the way over here. The bottom will flap over this. And then it'll go all the way up, and it'll be one piece and then mold into the back. And then the sides will be their own custom pieces. So that's the plan. I'm gonna go ahead and get it all trimmed out, and I'll bring you back right before I start glassing. So I'm gonna trim it out. I'm gonna cut all my pieces of matte before I apply them. You wanna get everything cut before you start mixing your epoxy, because the bottom line is epoxy has a long work time. This is all my wasted epoxy right here, and my mixer, which I'll have to get off there. But you do have a little bit of waste. Be careful around this these particles, because it's like needles. They stick into your skin. So I'll be wearing gloves. But anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to bring you back as soon as I get this all trimmed out. I'll probably give it a light sand everywhere so that I can mate more epoxy over top of it. And then I'll cut out the cloth that I need. I'm not going to use any more of that biaxial. I just use that for strength back here because this area is going to be hanging. So I wanted the underside to be really strong. And then I'm just going to put probably one layer everywhere. I might do a second layer right over the top so that the screws will bite better, and it will generally just be stronger. So after I get it all trimmed up and sanded and then cut out my pieces of cloth, we will be back. All right, boys and girls, I'm back. All right, so I have deburred this thing. I am going to seal the corners, and I cut all of the glass I'm going to lay tonight. I am going to have to do another session, unfortunately, tomorrow, but it is what it is. That's what you got to do to get it right. So this I can't move that because I have some things sitting in there. I'll show you in a second. So anyway, this is going to go over the top. This is the piece for going straight over the top. So that is going to get glassed in tonight, but before I put the top on, I am going to address the interior of this box. This is the command center, if you will, and the radio goes in there, and I got to glass this in just for reinforcement, and then I will do the two sides and probably the corners tomorrow after all of what I'm going to do now is dry. So I'm going to go ahead. I can't film, unfortunately. I'm not going to mess up my phone with the epoxy, and you see I got gloves on, so I'm about to start mixing this stuff up. I couldn't do it without a drink, and yes, this is my first debut on YouTube doing some work. Yeah, go ahead and call me a whiny girl or whatever you want. This is the new Bud Light Platinum Seltzer. 8% alcohol in that little deal. It's 170 calories. Yes, I'm watching my weight. Damn it. I tend to drink Jim Beam, or any bourbon is my thing. Instead of beer, I go with the lower calorie options. Generally, I drink 2 to 3 of these and I'm done for the day. I have no interest in getting drunk and acting like a freaking idiot. or just continuing to consume alcohol for the hell of it. So don't get me wrong, I like a good little buzz, but I don't just drink them all day unless I'm on the boat, in which case that's a different story. Anyway, so bourbon's my thing. I do drink those occasionally. I call them sparklers. The wife drinks them. It's just easy, especially on the boat. They're really light and refreshing. Those just came out. The other ones are 4 to 5% alcohol, so this is a heavier duty deal. Anyway, so back to the project at hand. Oh, I also did cut those out a little bit. They're not as trimmed as they will be at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and glass this in, get the top all glassed up, and then I'll show you what's up with that. And then tomorrow we'll resume for the final glassing segment. And then I think the third part 3 of the series is going to be finishing this thing. I think I'm going to paint it. I haven't quite decided 100%. I have this left over from another project. I built some goal posts, some football goal posts for my 7-year-old son in his bedroom with PVC, and then I painted it with this. This looks to be a very similar color to my Can-Am Maverick Trail. I will verify, but there should be just enough in there to get a couple 3 good coats on the box when it's done. I'm not 100% sure. I do like the texture that's left behind by the matting. I do not love the texture that's left behind by the biaxial cloth, but it is what it is. We'll see how it works. So for these deals, I'm not going to bother finishing the back, I don't think. I'm just going to paint it. I'm not going to worry about sanding or whatever. I'll make everything else that you'll be able to see look good. But the back, other than the corners, which obviously I have to seal and make look better, I did glass in here on the corners, and then this is a piece, and then this was its own piece. So it's all sealed up on the corners. I just don't want it to look like this because it looks like garbage. All right, I'm going to get to work. We'll be back whenever I'm done for the night. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am done for the night. All right, so I've wrapped the top. I even got the sides straightened out and put together, both sides. The only thing that's not really glassed in, well, I guess everything's glassed in. This corner I don't love, so I'm probably going to have to cut all of that off and then repatch a corner, just because I put a little bit more material on there. But most of this area is set and looks okay. But that's it. That's where we're at with today. So tomorrow I'll get back out here and I'll trim everything up. And then tomorrow will be like the final day to finish this thing up. I'll get all the edges and corners all trimmed and then sanded down. And then I'll fill in the corners, get all my corners, make sure everything's nice and sealed. I'll cut out the speaker holes and then get it really good and sanded. And then hopefully if that paint down there ends up matching properly, I'll paint it yellow and I'll leave the texture. I like the texture. I'm gonna leave it there, so I'll paint it yellow with the black speakers. It should look awesome and match the side-by-side very well. So I'll bring you back for to finish up part 2, and then the finishing, making it look good, installing everything and putting it in the side-by-side will be the conclusion, part 3. So that is the conclusion to part 2 of my Foxy box. Thanks for watching, guys. Post and comment below.